Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today for part 2 of our 3-part series on ArcGIS Online and education. ArcGIS Online includes a wealth of current data that is ready to use. In this session, we will explore how ArcGIS Online can be used to work through the inquiry process as we ask, acquire, explore, analyze, and act. My name is Jean Tong and I work at Esri Canada in the Education and Research Department. I manage the group supporting K-12 educators across Canada. I am a former classroom teacher of geography and history in Ontario. Today I'm joined by my colleague Ashley Harris, who will help facilitate the session and answer your questions. Geographic inquiry involves the ability and willingness to ask and answer questions about our world. These photos show Mount Logan, Canadian soldiers at Vimy Ridge, a forest in BC, and a wind farm in Ontario. Choose a picture and now ask yourself, where is it located? Why is it there? What is the significance of the location? As students pose additional questions, they seek responses that help to organize spatial understandings. What is this place like? With what is it associated? What are the consequences of its location and associations? ArcGIS Online is a tool that students can use for all parts of the inquiry process. Let's explore an example. The geographic inquiry process is similar to other inquiry processes, such as history. As you investigate an issue or topic by asking, acquiring, exploring, analyzing, and acting, the geographic inquiry process is about investigating with a spatial context. Ask. Ask a question about spatial relationships in the world around you. Acquire geographic resources. Identify data and information that you need to answer your question. Next, explore. Turn the data into maps, tables, and graphs and look for patterns in relationships. Analyze. Determine what the patterns in relationships mean with respect to your question. And act. Use the results of your work to educate, make a decision, or solve a problem. Even though this is a cycle, you may loop back to another part of the process before carrying on to the next part. For example, you may need to revise your question, what you're asking, after exploring your data. So our example, we're going to ask the question, where do winter athletes come from? What data may we need to answer this question? So we looked for athletes' hometowns. We explored this data to look for patterns in relationships. In looking at the Maple Leafs, we noticed that a lot of athletes live near major cities. What other data could I use to help explore patterns in relationships? After acquiring more data, I've added population density from 2011 to my map. And I can see that not only do athletes live near major towns, but also in highly densely populated areas. The power of GIS is not just visually analyzing your data, but being able to ask your data and your map questions. I'm going to use the analysis tool to help answer a question I have. Is there an area that has a higher concentration of winter athletes? And selecting my analysis tool, I can see there's different options here. I'm going to analyze the pattern, and there's handy hints here of information to show what the different analysis tools are. In this case, we're going to use calculate density to look at where the quantities are more densely concentrated on the map. I've done the analysis and the result has come up with more densely areas of winter athletes around Calgary and Toronto and Montreal. Now, I'm particularly interested in where figure skaters come from. I can use another tool by filtering my data. So I'm going to look at my Canadian athletes, and I can actually go in and look at the table of data that's behind each of these maple leafs. And there's an option to filter. I'm interested in finding all of the figure skaters, so I'm choosing sport, and there we go, figure skating. I now have 17 athletes or features that have been returned in my question to my map. And looking at the map, it appears that Southern Ontario here has the highest number of figure skaters. Now, the last part of the geographic inquiry process is acting on your analysis and your exploration. So using the results of my work, I'm going to actually make a decision. So my initial question was, where do winter athletes come from? And we found that there's a higher concentration of winter athletes from Southern Ontario. So my decision is that I would like to move to Southern Ontario. 17 of the figure skaters that participated in the last Winter Olympics, 10 of them were from Southern Ontario. And now I'm making a personal connection to my work, and that this is important to me because I'm a figure skater. I used a story map to actually create this presentation. And so by using a story map, I can actually embed maps, photos, and video. So what's next? Storytelling with maps. So I just identified I use a story map as my presentation tool. You can join us on October 26th to learn more about story maps and resources to get started in creating them, and just different ways you can use story maps with your students and in your teaching. Access to ArcGIS Online. If you require access for yourself, a colleague, or your students, you can visit esri.ca/AGOL access to fill out the online form. And promote and encourage your colleagues to join or check out ArcGIS Online and the resources we have to offer. So there was one question from someone about accessing this story map that I created on how you'd use the geographic inquiry process in ArcGIS Online. It is a public story map in ArcGIS Online, but I will include the link in the follow-up email that's sent later today. That includes also the recording. Thank you for everyone who took a few moments out of your day to hear a bit more about using ArcGIS Online, a tool for inquiry.